Welcome to my channel. Today, a step-by-step art journal page where I'm going to create this page starting with a masterboard. Here's the masterboard that I start with, and I'll put a link to the video where I show how I created this neutral brown white masterboard. And here's another project that I used the same masterboard on. I'll link that one as well. So of the leftover pieces, I decided that I'm going to make a 6x6 card. I'm cutting it down to 5 1/4 by 5 1/4 square. Now, I don't have enough for my 7x10 Canson Mixed Media page, but I do want to do an art journal page with it. So I'm thinking about cutting circles, but I decide, right now, I'm just going to glue this background onto the card and let this dry while I'm finalizing my plans. When I'm using the masterboard, sometimes I am building or figuring out more than one project at a time. And that's what you're going to see here. Now, if you want to see the art journal page, the step-by-step, and there's some really cool techniques being used, that's at minute 6. So you can fast forward to that point, or you can just stick with me. So here I'm using my circle template and I'm cutting out circles. I cut out 3 full-size circles, and then I have a leftover piece and I cut a partial circle for that. Just want to maximize how using all of the background. If you're not a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe by hitting the button in the lower right-hand corner. And if you are, please click the bell, select the option to be notified of upcoming videos. Now here I'm playing with the circles and throwing them onto the art journal page and putting them down there. Now my thoughts go to focal points. Now this napkin is called Mohana, and it's from NinnysNapkins, and I love the poppies on here. There's lots of different poppies. They're all about the same size, but they're slightly different. So you can, when you cut them out, if you're using more than one, they're not identical. And that gives variation. So right now I'm playing with these. I like the pinkish red against that neutral background. A neutral background allows you to put lots of color in the focal image. Then I'm thinking if I do it on the card, I can put it like this, or I can attach them to part of the circles and then do a background color. Right now I'm just auditioning. I'm thinking, I'm coming up with ideas. Now as I'm looking around, I see this Life is All About Balance, and I had printed it out when I did a previous page, and I printed with 2 different fonts, and this is the one I didn't use. So it's sitting on my desk waiting to be used. So I'm going to use it today. I'm still thinking I might use this flower, this poppy. So I've peeled off the excess plies and I'm just gluing this down onto copy paper. This makes the colors pop, and when I glue it onto that neutral background, the background's not going to see through. I decide to use those poppies on the art journal page. So I grab this butterfly that was also sitting on my desk to use on the card. It's the right color, it's right there. So when you have a masterboard and things in your stash, it's very easy and quick to come up with a card or an art journal's page. Now, I'm doing a 6x6 card here, but there's nothing saying you can't have a 6x6 art journal or do what I'm doing on this card on an art journal page of whatever size. Now, I'm masking off the white part, the white border, because I want to add some coral color to the background. And I'm mixing a pink and a Naples yellow to make that coral color that matches what was in the butterfly. Oh, I guess it was quinacridone magenta I used. And I'm using this stamp. This stamp comes from Stampers Anonymous, Faded Type. And I love the scale of this stamp, the script of this stamp. That just little addition of pink made a difference, and you'll see that in the close-ups. Now I'm just going to use the gel medium and glue all my elements down. Because you're using the Masterboard as an instant background, it's so quick and easy. It's just you figure out the composition by trying and auditioning various things in your stash and then gluing it down and then finishing work. Now there's that little bit of yellow in the butterfly and I wanted to bring that into the background, so I'm just splattering with gold. And now let's move on to the art journal page. So I am brayering on the brown and I'm going sideways and then I'm going to turn it and go the other direction. And I'm using brown. Now I want a background that's very similar to the circles. Here I'm adding some unbleached titanium to neutralize it. I want it to go, but I don't want it to be too contrasty, so I'm adding a little bit more. I'm using the 2.5, I think it's 2.5 inch brayer from Ranger. I love this for my pages. So I'm using brown and unbleached titanium and then titanium, and here I'm trying it with putting that on to see if it's the right tone. I want to lighten it a little bit, so I'm adding some white on top. That's a little bit of a dance here. I really struggled in just thinking about what kind of background I wanted. Nothing seemed to work in my minds. But in the end, I'm very happy with this background. So if you've got doubts right now, hang on. Kind of gave it a wash, and now I want to introduce that reddish color to the background. So I am using one of the same stencils, this dotted ring stencil that I used in the creation of the Masterboard, and inserting the red. This is just adding that color to the background, adding a little bit of background or pattern to the background too. Not much. You want all your components to read together. They have to correspond. So here's the red from the poppies and the pattern from the Masterboard. Taking a picture, sometimes looking at it through the picture gives me a better idea of what's going on. Playing with the poppies. Working with neutrals in the background is difficult for me. So I find I have to really overthink. Because there's black in the middle of the poppies and there's black on the Masterboard, I wanted to incorporate a little bit of black into the background. So I grabbed that script stamp from the Faded Type Stampers Anonymous set, and I'm going to stamp some of that on with black acrylic paint. And that's what you see me. I'm using a makeup sponge and putting it on the stamp. And then I'm going to add a little bit of that black into the background so that it reads with the other elements that I'm going to incorporate. Now you might be thinking those circles aren't really showing up, but you know that I'm going to take care of that, and I'm going to show you how. Really like the pink reddish color against the brown background. So I grabbed, played a little bit of orientation, found a sentiment. I can and I will. I was determined to make this page work. So I got that from my Perseverance sentiment pack. That and the napkin is available at NinnysNapkins.com. There's a link in the description box. And I'm just gluing it all down, all my circles down, with some matte medium. Now to make those circles stand out, I am shading with black acrylic paint on the circle, and then I go afterwards and I go on the paper outside of the circle. And between those two, that really makes those circles stand out from the background. It gives weight to them. And I keep coming back, adding a little bit more, drawing in between till I get the look. And you can see how it's almost 3D. The circles seem to be above the background. And then I'm going to edge around the page using the same shading technique. This frames the page. Now I'm putting the poppies back on with the sentiment, and getting ready to, make the final decision. And gluing that down with gel medium. And I'm putting a good coat of the gel medium on top because I may add some details on top and I want to prepare or prime it so that it takes whatever medium I'm going to do. So that one poppy has leaves, so I went in and I, using my hooker's green and yellow green, made leaves for the other ones. And this just made it all work. It balanced out the poppies, it added that little bit of green color to the whole page. It just worked so well. And I just freehanded the shape of the petals or the leaves. I looked at the one that was there and it just kind of copied the idea of the leaf. Well within my artistic abilities. And instantly when I did that, the poppies really stood out. They became a very strong focal image, where everything else, the circles included, became more the background. There I go. I just outlined the petal, and I'm just globbing in hooker's green and the light green, just kind of splodging it in. Nothing too precise. So this is how you can take a napkin and then add your own parts and make it your own. And I love the poppies because all three are different. Gives variation to your page. And then I use some of that yellow green in the middle of the poppies. There was some. I'm just bringing it out a little bit more. And then I decide I'm going to shade around my sentiment. Now I grab my General's charcoal pencil. This is medium hardness. It doesn't smudge as easily as the soft. And I'm just going to sketch some of the lines on the poppies. I'm somewhat following the lines or the shade, the colors that are there, but I'm not too precise. I'm holding my charcoal pencil very lightly, getting very sketchy lines, as you'll see here. I think these sketchy lines really add so much to the poppy and our focal point here. And just do every single one. Now adding some lines on the leaves. They weren't quite dry yet, but that was the problem that I was running into. So learn from me. Make sure you dry it completely before you try to do any line work. And there we have the two projects using this Masterboard. Thank you so much for joining me. Leave me a comment, ask me a question. Until next time, go get creative.